Greetings folks, Flying Doctor here, hope you're doing okay. And yes, welcome to this initial reflection of mine on XPlane12. Now, XPlane12 you can download as a beta now from Laminar's research site, but you can also purchase it early. Now, I've opted to do that. Why, you may ask? Well, you can see from my channel that previously I've had a vibrant interest really in XPlane11. Xplane, as opposed to Microsoft Flight Simulator, they're contrast. Microsoft Flight Simulator, you're really looking at a focus on, yes, the development of a range of aircraft, but they're not necessarily study level aircraft. In some cases, we're moving close to that, although what is study level is a subjective term. But you've got a broad range of aircraft. But most importantly, I would say that one of the major focuses of Microsoft Flight Simulator is, of course, on the scenery. But in the same way that you can download community add-ons via, for example, flightsim.to for Microsoft Flight Simulator, Xplane11 has a vast community of people, and the feel of the sim is different. This is a sim that invites amateurs right the way through to professional developers to develop add-ons for the simulators. There's a whole community that's much larger than I think exists for Microsoft Flight Simulator, certainly on the range of add-ons, planes, sceneries, utilities that are on offer. So yes, I went forward and I've purchased the early access XPlane12. There are one or two reviews out there. I won't pretend that I haven't seen those, of course I have, but I did feel that I might be able to bring something new just by simply saying, well, I've sat in XPlane12 and this is what it felt to me. Should you buy it? I'll answer that question straight away. Should you buy it? And my response is, well, at least know what you're buying. The main focus of XPlane12 or XPlane11 is on the accuracy of the flight modelling. Now, I saw another video earlier that sort of suggested had side-by-side the flight dynamics of both Cessna and XPlane11 and XPlane12, and was looking in detail at that. It looked like a really well-produced video. But in my view, I still, when I've jumped previously into XPlane11 from Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's felt different. That the way in which the aircraft is handled has felt different. And it's almost as if, whilst there is this desire to achieve the most realistic scenery, as you go down that route, and as the simulator for Microsoft Flight Simulator sort of appeals to the masses, it is almost this kind of very glassy, very glossy, but actually we lose our focus on the fact that Microsoft Flight Simulator is, well, exactly that, a simulator. So I think XPlane12 is kind of, for me, and XPlane11, it's quite doggedly persistent about we're there to produce a flight model. And although there can be some rich augmentation of scenery, that really, if we're flying, we're interested in what's happening in the air. It's nice to look down and see greater detail, but that's not quite our game, so to speak. So yes, they do different things, and I can say that I've just jumped into XPlane12, and it's almost like meeting an old friend, and there are some considerable improvements. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is surrounding the installation process, and this, in comparison to Microsoft Flight Simulator, was an absolute breeze. And this is a beta product. This was an absolute breeze. I think I'd taken for granted how long on my particular system and my internet connection it takes for the servers at Microsoft Flight Simulator. I mean, that's a kind of lag in itself as well. But to actually load and run the simulator, load the simulator from the first time, download the program, run, it just is, an inordinate amount of time and frustrations for a lot of people. Well, XPlane11 and I suspect XPlane12 will have its weaknesses, but it was an absolute breeze to download this. This took really, I just allowed a couple of hours for it to download on my connection, and I left it overnight and came back in the morning. And oddly enough, now this is going to seem counterintuitive, I had an error come up on the Xplane installer. Now this is what I'm showing you here. This is the Xplane installer that you first download, and it controls everything. And I thought, oh no, it said it had an error. It said it had a network. I thought, oh, there we are. This will be it. It'll be a fresh download again. But as I worked through the installer, it instructed me. It said, no, it's not installed correctly. And it didn't give me an option. It was almost like there's only one button to continue, and there's like end. And then I started the installer up again, and I got this. And I got this update Xplane button. And I've forgotten it does this. It just surveyed all of the files. I'll show you doing it. No, I won't show you doing it now because Xplane is live, but of course. But I just pressed the update Xplane. It whizzed through all the files. Now, there are no other add-ons at the moment that I've put into this, but it just whizzed through everything, found about 3 files that hadn't correctly installed, installed those, and then off you go. It was that simple. And so that's the first thing that I would say. It was a breeze and a joy to install. So what do we know about the changes between XPlane12 and XPlane11? Well, essentially what we're understanding is that we've got a new lighting engine with a much broader dynamic range. We've got a new weather engine. There are 7 new aircraft: A330, Citation X, SR22, RV10, PA18, R22 and Lancar Evolution. But I also am hoping that the existing aircraft will all have been updated, of course, to work with XPlane12. Why wouldn't you? That we've got volumetric 3D clouds, and we've got seasonal weather and weather-specific visual effects. So snow, variable vegetation, ice, rain, wind, and wind combining driving rain. And from what I've seen on 1 or 2 videos, really impressive stuff. We'll have a look on our own system here. Rain kind of trickling down, being driven into the canopy of an aircraft. And apparently we've got some new 3D forests. We've got water, we've got vegetation. I was aware that there were, for example, adjusting wave height. So I have seen some or 2 changes, but I just wanted to get a feel of what what it feels like to install this for me on my system, rather than just what are the changes that are stated there. So let's just jump in, and we'll have a look at new flights. So broadly, yes, it's a glossy kind of glassy kind of feel. But really, I'm interested in what's going on under the hood. So there we are. There is our list of aircraft, and there's more than the 7 new aircraft. Of course, we've got some existing aircraft. This interests me. The Robinson R22 Beta 2, and with floats as well. Sikorsky's there as 2 Hopters. Now the Sikorsky, I'll be interested because I saw that before, tested it, and I wasn't that impressed at all. I want to know if they've updated these models of aircraft. But for the moment, because I'm just looking at the sim in general, I'm going to stick with a model of aircraft that I know, and that's a Cessna Skyhawk G1000. So yes, what can we see just under the hood here? Well, we can see that there's no changes really to the structure of the right hand side panel here. If you don't know Xplane, you select your location up here and you control the weather down here, but it's highly customizable. And notice that the thing that I changed with the weather is that there's a clear demarcation between what is VFR and what is IFR. You can go through marginal there, and so a range of conditions, and also time of day, where you're able to select the time of day and vary it. Now you can do this mid-flight, and as well as being sat at the airport. I have sometimes found that if I've done it mid-sight, I've only had a little bit of a play with this. If I've done it mid-flight, sometimes it's not necessarily caught up straight away, but you can change the weather conditions on the fly. But apart from that, no real obvious changes. If I do click on the customize within the weather, I find that there didn't really seem to be any changes apart from, and if I might be wrong here, it's been a long time since I've seen the old sim, variation over location and time across region and evolution over time. So your weather can rapidly improve or be deteriorating. So that is definitely a new element to the sim. So you've got this dynamic weather and variation across a region from one region to another, little to a long-term maximum variation. I notice I've got a little plus for thermals there. climb rate under cumulus clouds. That could be, so there's a lot more detail. That's new. Wave height is new. Runway wetness is new. And I'm not quite sure about the rest. I was interested to see where's the snow, because I was going to try and show some snow, but no. So in general, I'm finding that the detail that you could put into this, in theory, is greater than Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. We've jumped straight across to the weather engine. Sorry, I'm just enthused. Now, this is interesting. Manually enter weather or download real weather. What I found interesting about this is, have a quick look on this. I think we're set for London, but we'll change and we'll find another location just so that I can go back. So let's change our location, and we will. I want to be somewhere bigger because I want to see the impact on the frame rate. So we'll go to Gatwick. Though it's unlikely that the weather's going to be hugely different, but it'll have to download a different set of data for London Gatwick. So we'll go there, we'll start a new flight there, and straight away, one of the things that I found was just how quickly that the new flights could load, as it's just preparing the world here. There we are. That is really very fast indeed. So it's returned to some former settings that I had in. Doesn't that look glorious? And you can see straight away the difference between XPlane11 and XPlane12. Before we talk about those really impressive lights, let's just get on and see what we can do with the weather. So I'd like to change. We can just play about and just change the time of day and the weather engine and have a look at that. So okay, so time of day, we can customize this. We can set it to regular time, our normal time of day, but we're looking at the weather settings at the moment. Don't know why it's jumped to that, but here's the thing. I can download real weather. If I click on that, downloading, there we go. Now that might look a little bit slow, but it's downloaded real weather at Gatwick, and that I've always struggled with that with Microsoft Flight Simulator, so really impressed at that. And I've got all of the conditions that are on the right hand side here, so that's quite impressing me there. So we'll stay with that. Then time of day, let's just have a look at that and customize that and see what we can do. We can track the real world time of day. You can see here that I have got a real world time of 9:23 UTC, but we're GMT offset because we're in summertime by 60 minutes here. So I can change this to whatever I want it to be, and I can either put it in the hour and a minute here, or the easiest thing is I can change this slider here, and that's obviously going to give me my lighting changes. So if we were to say what would this look like at 6:45 in the morning, let's apply that. And again, this is real time. How fast is that? Now, for those of you who've worked with XPlane11 before will know that, well, quite frankly, you may as well go out and make yourself a cup of tea and a bacon sandwich sometimes when you're waiting for things to load. It's also significant that I am running in 4K at the moment, and I am, yes, my frame rate, and I'd anticipate this, is low. We are looking about 15, 16 frames per second. But again, this is not too juddery. As I move around, it's not too juddery. I will have a bit of a fly around, but at the moment, I just want to focus on the weather engine, and then we'll move on from that. Although I can clearly see a difference at the moment with the lighting, with the runway lights, but also with the pattern, this graduated pattern up here of the sky. If I just show you, if I go to settings, you can see my settings. Now I'm running at 4K on a GTX 3080. My textures are up to maximum. My cloud quality is up to maximum. The rest of these are shadow, rendering distance, world objects, vegetation are 3/4. And here on the left hand side, I've played it out a little bit more. Ambient occlusion 2/3 of the way up. Rendering resolution is off. So that will improve performance on high resolution displays. It says the expense of graphics quality by rendering a lower resolution image. The best setting is off, so we're not compromising here. Xplane will render its native resolution. I might play with that later and see what difference that makes. Anti-aliasing is the smoothing, of course. It says that you can put it up to 4 or higher, but I'm in 4K. I've ended up with it around about midway. And anisotropic filtering here, and that improves the views as you're approaching objects at an angle. But yeah, it does say if you've got a powerful graphics card, last time I looked, a 3080 was pretty powerful. But yeah, this is 4K. So these are the settings that I've got. Now, generally before, the left-hand settings were all graphics. The right-hand settings was CPU heavy. But I haven't played about with these much more. But I thought I'd just stick with this for the moment. So yes, that's on the settings so that you can see that. And but I really want to go back and just talk about the weather. But just at the bottom here to say that this layout for how you use your monitors, and you can use multiple monitors, hallelujah, on XPlane12, very good at that. And either you can just use it as a 2D monitor, so you can lift, and I'll show you later, you can lift your display and move it to another monitor, you know, one of your primary flight display, for example, or you can have the Instructor operating station, which is what we've got there. But I just wanted to show you my settings first. So we're not even at really maximum settings, but we're probably, you know, up there for what my machine is capable of doing at the moment.
QNH1008.
Now I won't explore this anymore, but it doesn't say in the changes about ATC, but I gather we're looking for an improved ATC at some point. This is a beta project, and things are being developed. But we'll start with this, and what I'm going to do is just surface through a whole different range of weather conditions so we can demonstrate and just have a look and see what feels different in the sim. Okay, so this is 10 o'clock in the morning and scattered cloud, as we can see. And these clouds are at maximum quality. And I can't... What I do spot is this graduation in the light from very white to very blue the other end, and the kind of cotton wool bud texture of the clouds. You know, I've not sat in front of a Cessna and looked through the window, so I can't sort of promise to say, oh, this looks definitely real. But it does have there's something about this that looks much more authentic, much more real. I'm also seeing more blue generally in the tones as well, which is what you would expect around about a 10 o'clock time. Okay, so yes, we just had a crash there, and something clearly went wrong. One of the things I've done is gone and think, is it to do with the HDR engine? And I've just switched on HDR here under my system, under my display. So we'll just have a look at that, keep an eye on that and see how it works. However, it does give me an opportunity just to demonstrate how quickly it's possible to restart the sim and how seamlessly it returns back to where you were before. So Xplane12 installs just in a folder with an executable in it. It's one of the beautiful things about Xplane12. Very simple. And so there's my folder. It's downloaded into the C drive by automatically. If I double click on that, I find all of the programs there that I need. Double click on Xplane and off we go. And so we'll start installing right now. Now this could be quite interesting once again to see how quickly we managed to get to that front screen. I wouldn't even have to pause there to find out where we are. But this is interesting me now, because will we get the same crash when we return back? Is it to do with just the HDR setting on my computer? Let's wait and see. Let's resume the last flight. We can ignore that. It's just saying it's found a controller of mine that hasn't been calibrated yet. We'll ignore that. Let's just see how long it takes us to do this. Reading new scenery files for us there, and my guess is that as soon as I press pause, there we are back on the runway. About 10 seconds after I press pause there, so the actual resetting of the sim is happening really quickly. So we're now, yes, in HDR mode, and there you can see we were in. Let's have a look. We can go back and see what settings we were looking at. So we were at IFR precision. That needs to be. Did we jump one? IFR non-precision. Let's just go back one. So this is IFR non-precision permitted. And let's move back and see IFR precision. I mean, it's that fast, I'm not having to pause the simulator at all. And straight away you can see, you were seeing it before, but the rain coming down on the canopy. I've seen it in other videos, but it's still, watching it myself on my big screen, looks absolutely amazing. Very, very realistic. And let's finally see what we can do, what mischief we can create for ourselves. We'll drop through to convective. That's going to get really rough now. Now, interesting me with convective is that you've still got these kind of... the image suggests it would be highly overcast, but it's not quite the case. So I'm not quite sure about this setting. We're looking at violent, really quite violent, unpredictable weather conditions with lots of thermal updrafts. My guess is convective, convection currents, but really, yeah, not quite sure what's going on there. But again, clouds look a bit too sort of fluffy in a way. And let's just move on to our final settings and work through this and see what we can get. Large cell thunderstorms. See? Whoa! Now the other thing I can notice here with the weather setting we're seeing before, immediately I set an XPlane12, is the sounds are unbelievable. Absolutely superb. And I haven't got sounds like this with Microsoft Flight Simulator. And what's more, I don't have the annoying music. Terrible, terrible music. But here we are, we do have a thunderstorm. Although I'm kind of thinking, well, why aren't the skies dark? I was out the other day in weather like this. And yeah, it looked all bright around, but immediately above my head, there's a thunderstorm. I'm just going to have a little bit of a walk around because there's some obvious, as we just move beyond this weather engine, I do want to look around at these puddles. So I'm just going to shift here to external. We'll move on to free camera, which will let us eventually come outside the aircraft. And we can just have a quick look and see what's going on. And yes, we've got these really, yes, very realistic rain action here. The splashing in the puddles. A very natural way in which the water finds its place on a slightly uneven surface, very slightly uneven. And yeah, really impressed by that. There seems to be much greater clarity around the light, some of the lit areas. The PBR I can still see, even though we've not got light bouncing off this thing. I can still see the PBR working really well. Should we just come across and have a look here behind the aircraft? There we are, a nice close up there. Also, I'm just looking at the textures on the runway here, and well, I've invested quite a lot of money in certainly in trying to get worn textures for runways, and actually I'm finding that this is already done here, so quite impressed to say the least. I've not seen snow. I do want to see snow, but so we'll jump back in and we'll see if we can achieve that and edit that. So we'll go to view, internal default view again, so simple as that. Okay, let's see if we can find some snow somehow. So this is a change. So in trying to create snow, I thought, well, we'll drop the airport temperature down to about -9. We'll put that to -6, something like that, very cold winter's morning that we might get here in the UK. And then I noticed this runway and water conditions, and I've got a drop down menu now. If I go down here, I've got standing water maximum, but also I've got options for snow and options for ice. Now this is completely new. So if I go to snowy max, I'm just wondering what we'll get. Should we have a look and see? I'll apply those. Now let's see. So we have snow, and we also have rain. Not quite sure what's happening there, and whether the rain will eventually turn to snow. but that's to do with the runway. The snow is definitely to do with the runway, so we'll just jump out, shall we, and just have a look and see what we've got. Change external, free camera. There we are. Let's just wander over here and just see. Yeah, looking down, and we do have clear areas of delineation. We also clearly have snow. I'm wanting snow on the ground anyway, but we appear to have rain here. I wonder what happens if we shift to ice. Let's do that. Have a look at that and see what's possible. Okay, let's back into default view again. Okay, there we go. So we'll customize on our weather, and let's just see what happens if we can get snowy and icy max. What happens there? We're going to get snow at some point, and let's bring it down to -10. We have had harsh winters, but that would be exceptionally cold for us. I've got evolution over time generally deteriorating, but I think that's to do with across a region. But we'll put no, that won't make any difference, will it? Because whatever we set is going to be set saying how bad do we want it to continue getting. Let's have a look, see what happens now. Let's apply these changes. So we're struggling to get some snow. Well, at the moment, and despite a lot of research, I have to admit defeat over being able to create snow. I'm wondering if things might change once I start flying. But in the meantime, let's just have a play about and experience what happens when we start changing the time of day. So I'm really interested in that one. So let's go for early mornings, shall we, first thing? See what we get there. Oh, once again, this looks beautiful. Now this is worth getting out and having a look for, isn't it? Let's go very early morning. So view and external and free camera. What have you got? Come on, free camera. There we go. Let's just take a look here. Wow. Well, that is just pretty stunning, really. Pretty stunning. I hadn't looked at the airport by day, but I have to admit I'm really impressed with the improvements of night lighting around what is Gatwick Airport here, and also the lights on the cars and the kind of reflections that we've got on the surfaces. And the other thing that I should note is how the airports are looking a lot busier. We'll have a little look. We'll change the time of day again and just get another feeling for what things might look like. So let's see if we can just inch it forward. There we are. Okay. Not forgetting that this is in a sort of snow, so we were actually seeing some reflections in the snow of the lights. So I'm just going to pull it across to later in the day, just giving us a real understanding of the changes in this HDR engine. 8:30 in the morning should be pretty oh, look, there we are, a nice blue in the sky as well. Interesting. I'll be hoping for precipitation as I was looking around here, but you can already see, oh yes, look at the detail in the textures here, the different surfaces, the amount of water, the ice that's laid down. Really impressed by this. Looks like Sub-Zero, doesn't it? That's my fault, that is. We'll make a few changes so we can actually see what things might look like. Let's bring the temperature up to sort of 4 degrees and make that reasonable. And we've had snowy and icy, so let's just drop that down. I think the snowy and icy max is right at the bottom, isn't it? Right, I see. So snowy max, but we've seen that before. Let's go to standing water max and look at that from a distance. Let's have a look here. I'll apply that one. So yeah, we've got standing water. It's not quite convinced about the strips that when you go closer, these you've got these strips of material. I'm not really convinced by that at a distance anyway, but as you go closer and you look in, well, that's something else, isn't it? So yeah, big improvements there. From a distance, the grass doesn't look bad at all. I'm just going to move us. Oh, we have got some rain coming across. one of the things that I'm spotting straight away with the aircraft is, I mean, as early in the morning, it doesn't look as busy as it could be in previous iterations of airports. We see, oh, there are moving buggies and traffics, but firstly, you can see here there's a car moving there. Perhaps we just need to make it easier. Maybe we made it hard for ourselves because we've changed the conditions so much. But let's just move back to VFR broken. No, let's go back to VFR scattered and just see what this looks like. Yeah. So although it's got a sort of flat feeling about it, and you know this is a very, you know, this is a model, isn't it? You know, so there's nothing kind of, you know, photogenic really about this. This is a model, but what is noticeable that is not present in Microsoft Flight Simulator, as I look at Gatwick Airport here, is simply that it's populated with aircraft. Microsoft's Flight Simulator airports aren't necessarily populated with this aircraft, and also with this variety in branding. FedEx we've got there, we've got Emirates there. And what have we got right down here? Let's have a look as we zoom in. EasyJet, yeah, EasyJet, Lion Air, and oh, there's Virgin Atlantic as well. And I can also hear, I'm also hearing a background noise here that I wouldn't necessarily be hearing, sirens. So yeah, from a distance, the first thing I can tell you is that the autogen is disappointing. But the textures on the airports look really good and improved. The wear and tear on the runways looks fair, and I've paid money for that before in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The trees apparently, I mean, I just rattled off at the beginning, didn't I? What some of the changes were. That the trees, oh, that brought a lot of detail in as we zoomed. The trees, the vegetation is different. Not markedly so, and I did see some animations when I was sat down in the aircraft before, but just looking around. So the scenery is probably a significant disappointment. I mean, straight along here you've got this sort of autogen, but on the other hand, what we're more interested in, we're more interested in flying the aircraft and learning the principles and having a flight model that responds accurately, or are we just wanting to spot things on the journey? And that's not to denigrate one over the other, but XPlane12 has always been about the flight model. Let's just jump back in and see what we can do. Ban to default view. So there we are, back in default view again. And that's now looking down, you can see the detail here. So by and large, just purely on the I'd like to see sunset. Let's see what happens at sunset. Shouldn't be much difference from sunrise, apart from it's the the sun is in a different point in the sky. But let's just have a look. Yeah, that didn't make much difference. That's summertime for you, for us here now. Let's just go 7-11. And I have seen that before. Yeah, I can witness to that. That yeah, indeed, that is what it may well look like. You can get this curious sort of mixes. But yeah, quite impressed by that. Let's see what happens if we go a little bit a tad earlier. That's 15 minutes earlier. Yes. So we've got clearly got the kind of golden hour glow there. And then let's have a look and move to night. That's 9:15. There you go. Let's just go out again and have another look. View, external, free camera. Although it shouldn't be like it shouldn't be anything different than it was before. But it's just I am. Oh, there's a lovely moon. I am just you know, amazed at the lighting here. Look at how beautiful this is. Even though it's a model, it's clearly a, you know, it's not trying, but it's still beautiful. It's still very active. Look at all these vehicles, left, right, and centre, lights here, and this is just straight out of the box. Virgin Atlantic, like that. United Airlines there. Down here, what we've got? Who's that? UPS Worldwide. Yeah. So I'm actually really, really impressed with this. It's not better. It's different. But also, in a strange way, certain elements of this are better than Microsoft Flight Simulator. But I'm loving the improvements to lighting here. So yes, that's my sort of first feeling, and then I'm going to jump in and we're going to fly, and then I'll give you just an impression of what it's actually like to fly about in this. So here we are. I've jumped back in the sim and I'm on marginal VFR. I've increased the heaviness of the rain to about 70% on the sliders that are available, and the dialogue you've seen before, and it's just started to come after about 5 minutes of prepping. Just wanted to show you a couple of things. So I operate at the moment, I've got a 4K central screen and two 4K monitors. I use a TV for the main view of the aircraft here, and two 4K monitors that are just acting as 2D panels. Now, great thing about Xplane, if you didn't know, is that you can have wraparound panels. You need some serious kind of kit to do. Well, you need a decent graphics card to do that. You need to be playing about with resolutions, but it will do it. I'm using a GTX 3080, which is no slouch, and I won't get 4K across 3 screens, but I will get sort of 1080p easily. But that's really this really kind of neither here nor there really, but I just want to show you. So left hand screen, no real changes to what's known as the Instructor operation station, but it doesn't. You can actually use this. You can have somebody else use it and play about with your settings, your weather, your failures. Here, for example, it's got failures as you're flying, so it's a very different way of testing out things. So yes. The other thing that I'm seeing here is actually got weather directly over the Instructor operating station. When the rain's really starting to come here on the main sim, and just as we turn back, to the main sim, you can just see, just a reminder, one of the great things about Xplane is that these panels are detachable. I didn't do things in the best way there. I'll do it again here. So, it's remembering where we were. That's what's happening. So if I click there, it's just lost some shape, but I could just redefine it very quickly. But if I click here, click in the middle of a panel, you get this. There we are. Jump out like this, and then you can take that to a panel next door. Just move it to another monitor. I won't do it with this. I mean, there's not much point, I think, in doing it with the primary flight display here, but the navigational unit, yes, well worth doing it. And it's worth remembering, one of the things that, well, Xplane gets so right is that all of these are fully functional. And also, if you can get the actual pilot operating handbooks for aircraft as just part of the base package. So yeah, just to say, as we zoom in here, the resolution at 4K is absolutely fine. I'll lose it in some elements. I'll start to lose it in the text here, but who wants to be that close? Other elements will hold up really well. But yeah, kind of really impressed by this sort of seamless transition. The rain's coming down, isn't it, a bit? We'll give ourselves a little bit more light, shall we? A little bit more light. There we are. Okay, and just so you didn't get a chance to see what was on my right hand screen, so this is the whole screen here, and I'm able to really get knuckle down and get into this detail, so I can operate the autopilot and the other settings here just from a separate screen rather than having to click on the main screen. And you can configure yourself, and already it's just like, oh, this is lovely. This is like, as I say, kind of meeting an old friend. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give a little bit of a flight. I'm actually going to fly in towards London, I think, and I'm just going to tweak the range here. There's this for tweaking the range. You can see that here, and because I've just see the vague direction. There's London City Airport, and I've got 1 or 2 airports around here. And I can see where I am. I'm in the little aircraft that's in the middle there. If we just go in nice and close, you can see me there in the middle of the compass road. There am I. So yeah, and you can see your navigational markers as well. So yeah, we'll just have a little bit of a fly, and I'll just give you an indication of what things feel like. So yeah, let's just see where this how we go here. I'm increasing the power. I'm going to take the brakes off. Immediately I'm feeling a kind of range of motion that I wouldn't really feel in the Cessna flight simulator. Feeling it's kind of bouncy, a little bit unpredictable. It's making me take more responsibility right away. And now on full throttle and it's feeling stable. And we're at the point where we can lift off now. Oh, it's a little bit blowy. I'm feeling the wind. I'm just going to climb. Of course, knowing in the right moment, I'd be overflying an airport like this, but see that we've got here, if we're looking at our pink is where we are wanting to be, yellow over pink. So it is, well, it is feeling as I kind of would expect in this kind of weather, feeling a bit unstable. It's making me pay a lot of attention to the aircraft. So Kenley's about 8 miles away. We can see if you look at the top of the readout here, distance 8.7, 8.6. I'm going to bring that pink line in the centre. Yeah, so autogen, terrible. Trees completely misplaced, but I'm just focusing on the flying. Different airport. Just going to lower the throttle now. And the other thing I'm noticing is I can tell by the I can tell what's happening with the engines because I can hear it. I can't feel it, obviously. I can hear the change in tone, and I look and say, oh yeah, I'm doing 130 knots. I'm a bit too fast for where I should be. Now what I don't have is any PAPI indicators. This is all by I'm attempting to land without flaps. Why is that? Because I've forgotten to program flaps in. And we may well circle and land. I'll overfly first. I need to lose some speed. Well, folks, yes, we tried to make our way to Kenley, but I thought I'd just finished with this and didn't quite work. We managed to crash, and that's really because I need to pay a little bit more attention, and also because I tried to land at really what was quite a small airfield. Glide slope totally wrong. But suffice to say, yeah, I've not had. I need to do a little bit better than that. If you saw my attempt at flying the Bell helicopter, that's something else. That's hilarious, but does allow me to illustrate close up just some of the changes. I mean, if you were this close before in XPlane12, you would have really struggled. You know, it would have really looked like you know, an old video with vegetation. But here, close up, you can see that the trees are actually, well, they're regionally pretty correct from what I remember around Kenley. And also you've got different leaves on the trees, and you've also got some movement as well. You can see the trees swaying in what is a pretty heavy breeze. So yeah, not a successful flight, but that's not the point. The point is to kind of demonstrate close up And there are differences in the textures here to demonstrate close up the difference here between Xplane12 and Xplane11 just in this. So we've really haven't we've just looked at the weather system, we've looked at the lighting, we've looked at the scenery around airports, and we've looked at the general scenery as well, which doesn't impress, but also we've been really encouraged by the flight model. So I hope you enjoyed that, folks. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to try and load up, I don't know if it will work, but I'll try and load up one of Orbx's scenery, perhaps into London, and we'll see how the sim copes with that. Don't even know whether it's designed to do that, but hey, that's simming, and that's kind of participating in beta projects. So we'll try and do a little bit of work and see what Orbx are saying about that. I might just try and do it and experiment. Is it worth it? Yeah, I think if you can afford it, it's worth it. It depends on what your interest is with flight simming. If you are looking just to look at scenery below, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. If you're looking to get a real in-depth feel of the tech around the aircraft, of the screens, these screens are fully functional, then I think that Xplane11 is for you. And I still would put my money or my non-money around the community around Xplane11 that will now drive through to Xplane12 designing add-ons. I think that already there's continues to be a lot of excitement in this project. So take care, folks, stay safe. Hope you enjoy the video.